Hey, Lola, cool it.
Okay, Sherry, it's 5 o'clock. Okay, I'd like to call a special board meeting June 29th, 2020 to order. Roll call.
Mrs. Daniels,
Present.
Mrs. Kitson,
Here.
Ms. Thomas,
Here.
Mrs. Tucker,
Here.
Mr. Juby.
Here. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the Garfield Heights City Schools Bulldog Digital Academy. Recommend adoption as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Daniels,
Yes.
Mrs. Kitson,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Juby.
Yes. At this time, I want to turn it over to Mr. Hankey, and he's got some brief words, and then he'll take any questions we may have. Mr. Hankey.
You're
That
muted.
would probably help. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a couple of updates that had happened just in the last week. I'm going to share my screen and show you guys some things that have occurred. You should be seeing in a second. Can everybody see the agenda now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to this. This slide is from the Ohio School Board Association webinar about House Bill 164. House Bill 164 was signed into law by the governor approximately a week ago, and OSBA, in conjunction with the Superintendent's Association and the Treasurers Association, OASBO, put together a pretty comprehensive webinar. And I did send it to the board in case you missed it. You guys might be getting the same email. I believe it's a copy of the webinar and also of the slides. The main component of this that has to do with tonight's discussion is the remote learning plan. The remote learning plan has to be approved by the Board of Education and submitted to the Ohio Department of Education by July 31st. The components of the plan are spelled out here in this slide. Is it big enough for everybody?
Yes.
That better?
Yes.
Okay, so you have 6 criteria here for the remote learning plan. For Garfield Heights City Schools, through our survey data, we gleaned that around 33 or 4% of respondents said that they would not feel comfortable sending their children to school in any form in the buildings until there was a vaccine. With that, we launched a separate parent survey, and of the 300 respondents, about 60% of them said that they would also feel uncomfortable sending their children to school and would like a completely online component. I worked with a couple of neighboring districts to kind of see what they were doing, and what we did was we did launch a enrollment form to see how many students would in fact commit to an online learning program. As of today, we have 63 folks that are interested in that. Part of the remote learning plan will be the Bulldog Digital Academy, which, just for anyone watching, and we're going to put out an FAQ, which I'm going to show everybody in a second, will not be a new school. You will be a member of Garfield Heights City Schools. It will be offered to K-12. And that will go into the plan that will have to be approved by the Board of Education. Additionally, part of the remote learning plan will also be our brick and mortar reopening plan. The governor, as of today, has delayed again his guidance for schools until Thursday. What we do know at this time, and talking to other first-ring schools and many other area schools, is there's very few schools, if any, that are going to have all their students in the buildings at the same time. Part of the remote learning plan will be our plan to have the students rotate in and out of the buildings. We're looking right now very closely at a week on, week off type of plan. To gain additional feedback for this, I did reach out to a small group of parents, and I'm meeting with them on Wednesday. I know I asked the board for some recommendations. We did incorporate the recommendation we got, and also a parent from each building. And we are going to look at that. The plan, we will have a substantial plan ready to present to the board at the July 13th work session. Mrs. Reisland and myself will be taking the lead on presenting that to the Board of Education. We felt it was necessary to move forward with the online portion as we develop this, and I know it's kind of going quickly, to make sure that we had a very good idea of how much space we're going to need in the buildings, about how many teachers we may need for the remote learning plan. Additionally, we are also working with the teachers union and the classified union, OPSI, on these plans, and making sure that beyond compliance with contracts, but also making sure that their members are well informed of things. As of right now, we are in the middle of this process, and we are going to have a plan ready to present on the 13th. What we did develop was this FAQ sheet that I did share with the board, that we'd like to put out, just about the different options that are being considered for students. And again, we are still waiting for some guidelines. One of the things that we did share with the public at the calendar meeting was the proposed calendar to start after Labor Day. That's very necessary in my mind to make sure that we're able to have enough space to get everything in place in terms of learning and also safety and sanitation. It does compress the calendar. I do want to answer some things that I think have been kind of floating around. This still offers us the opportunity for the students to get out in the first week of June. It also just shaves off a couple of days off of Christmas break, or winter break, excuse me, and front loads professional development days for teachers. We worked with the teachers union, and they were able to sign an MOU agreeing to this that particular plan, so the board's able to move forward with a new calendar adoption for that. The digital plan, I think, is going to be very helpful for I think a lot of families that may not feel comfortable. Based on our survey data, I'm expecting we may see around 150 to 200 families sign up for this plan. President Juby, I'll stop sharing there, and I'm certainly obviously willing to take any questions.
Okay, I do have one real quick. Hypothetically, say the governor comes out and says, you can open up school full bar, no restrictions, no nothing.
I think
we still go with the digital academy?
I think that we would, because I think that there is still going to be, based on the surveys, a discomfort for a number of folks that may not want to return to school.
So
the chances. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. My concern was that if we didn't, even though the governor says we could open full bore, if we didn't offer something like this digital academy, those students would probably go somewhere else then. That's paying for them.
Yes, that's a concern, and also it allows the students that, in fact, do sign up for this. It's not. It's a separate program. It's not a separate school per se. So they are attending Garfield Heights City Schools. So it's easy for them, if restrictions are lifted, to come back to regular school. Or if they start feeling comfortable, what we're asking them for is a commitment of a semester in that type of academy setting.
I had a question, a couple questions. What happens if the opposite case scenario happens where we continue to see a rise and we are told we cannot have in-class learning for the first semester? Will we be able to accommodate all our students online with the necessary materials,
Yes.
internet access, etc.?
Short answer is yes. The long answer is that part of the remote learning plan that will be presented will offer that type of a pivot if in fact it does happen. As many of you have seen over the past week or so, there's been a spike in COVID-19 cases, even here in Ohio, although we have been lucky compared to other states. If the County Board of Health, because one of the things I think that the governor, from what I've seen in various news reports, is the governor may be looking at a model that goes county by county. So if the Cuyahoga County Board of Health determines that schools are going to be shuttered, we have to be able to pivot and offer everything online. Part of that, Mrs. Bailey's been working on the one-to-one piece for Chromebooks, and also making sure that we can, if need be, we can offer internet service to the neediest of our families. Secondly, what we've been working on, Mrs. Riesland has been exploring a few different, I don't want to call them canned programs, but programs that offer online instruction. One of the things, though, quite frankly, we're leaning toward, because of, I think what parents would like to see is a more personalized form of education, even online, is having the teachers and the principals develop their online teaching. With that, we did contract with the ESC to offer, starting on July 1st, the teachers are going to be able to access online modules on how to teach online. I know that sounds redundant, but and also get personalized help from someone at the ESC. Her name's Stephanie D. Michelle. Luckily, we're not, quote unquote, the guinea pigs in this program. She has run this program before in other districts, so it's pretty well developed. So I think that's going to be helpful to the teachers. I did just release last week to the teachers the Ohio Leadership Advisory Council, which is an organization that's tied to BASA, OSBA, OASBO, and the Ohio Department of Education. They offered online modules on trauma-informed education, and also, I can't remember the other module, but I did release those to the teachers as a help. So those are some things that we are looking at. I think that, you know, as I think I've said in the past, the teachers and us, this is a new frontier, and we need help and training on things.
So a question, if I could get clarification on the information that went out district-wide, because when I clicked on the link, it appeared to be a registration form.
Yes.
That you're registering your child for this option of schooling. Is it an actual registration, or are you just gaining insight as to how many families would be interested? Because
go ahead.
I was just going to say, prior to, we got the information at the same time that the community got the information. So there were lots of questions that we couldn't answer as board members, because the last time we spoke, it was still in the works. So I'm trying to get clarification where we're at and what our next steps need to be as a board to fully back, because I think we're all in agreement that this is something that needs to occur. I think we've moved a little fast, and we aren't completely up to date on.
So we wanted to see if in fact it wasn't an experiment. We wanted to see what students would register for an online component, and we do understand that the board needs to approve that component. But you know, we wanted to make sure that we were able to offer something in lieu of folks leaving the district
Yeah.
quickly. So, and this is also kind of a new frontier for us. I certainly didn't want to put the cart before the horse, but I did want to make sure that we were able to capture the folks that may be considering leaving. That was the reason for that, Ms. Tucker.
Have we had any students withdraw? Have we seen an influx of withdrawals in the district?
Not yet. That usually does occur as things get closer in August. We are also, quite frankly, down district-wide in terms of withdrawals. I am quite concerned. If we don't move forward, obviously that could happen. So that was the main reasoning. We will get out information, obviously, as things happen, but the long and short of it is the most robust information will be available on July 13th when we present to the Board of Education.
You indicated that when we first discussed this, it was kind of promoted as a sixth school for the district, but today you identified it as a program versus another school building. So like, I'm just trying to ask, like, definition wise, what's the difference in just a program versus another school building?
Absolutely. Here's the difference. If you were to, and I'll lean on Al a little bit here in terms of the fiscal piece of this, because there is a component to that. Creating another school through the Ohio Department of Education, quite frankly, is onerous. It's difficult. Secondly, if you take the students and they have a program coordinator, so they have the structure of a separate school. They also have a tie through our computer program, through our student information system, to their home school. So it operates much like the Garfield Heights Learning Center does, where the students are at the Learning Center receiving instruction, but they are technically tied to their school building through our student information system. So it also allows us, if there's movement and the student moves, from the online program back to the regular school program, it makes it relatively seamless for us.
I jump on one thing too, Mr. Hankey. It's for testing purposes also. So those students may be also, they're still assigned to their home school. So when they do have to take state testing, if that's still we have to do for this year, then they're still aligned to that home school that they are. So whether they're coming out of William Foster or the middle school, they're still aligned with that home school.
And I think to piggyback on that, back when all these charter schools were popping up, a lot of students, the public schools, tried to pick an avenue where they can actually do their own charter school and keep the students within the district and within the funding piece. And rather than funnel money to a different school, an outside organization, they're actually funneling money to their own school, but it's separate away, and they consider that a charter school for those. So unfortunately, we can't do that anymore as a public school that the charters can. So I'm not sure we really call it a separate school, except for the fact that it's a separate entity and until its own, but it's still part of the district as far as doing extracurriculars and anything else that you can keep maintaining those ties in the funding piece.
So speaking of extracurriculars and things like that, so students who are enrolled in the Digital Learning Academy, will they still be responsible for things like student fees and activity fees, even though they may not technically be in the buildings ever?
The only fees we really have right now are high school. And I think, and we don't have any more pay to participate. And usually the class fees right now are for graduation purposes, or if you're taking a chemistry class, you have to buy, or there's books that you may need to do, or workbooks. From the high school standpoint, K through 8 has no class fees anymore. So it's just high school depending on the classes. And I still think working through that curriculum, how that's going to look moving forward. We haven't really finalized yet.
Okay, is that something that will be finalized and discussed on the 13th though?
I would think so. Yes. Absolutely. Because I think we'd have to finalize all the kind of the high school, how that's going to look. And
Do we have an idea? I have a couple questions. So this K through 12 digital academy, even after this first semester in the fall, is this something we're continuing?
I think there's going to,
and I'll just finish up. And do we need a separate administrator? Do you have a ballpark idea of the cost yet, or you'll probably have that on the 13th? And I think that's it.
Yes, I believe we need a separate administrator. I think that having, especially considering the regular building administrators are going to be responsible for brick and mortar and online learning, almost a blended model. You're going to have a situation where an administrator is going to be needed for this program. And that would be the main cost associated with this. We were already moving toward a one-to-one model with Chromebooks. We were already going to offer help in terms of internet access, just in terms of where that might lay. So that's really your main cost there. Is that we would be using, excuse me, current staff to staff this. That would be something that we're going to have to look at in terms of there's a number of things that play into that. One of which is, well, I think some of the staffing issues I would prefer to discuss in executive session, but I think that we'll be able to do that with current staff.
So with an administrator, we need someone that's versed, I would think, in a virtual digital academy with that background. I mean, it sounds like a big endeavor to go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. And then just speaking, of this administrator being the main cost associated with the program, I definitely think we should bring in someone who has that experience. And then my follow-up question with that is, what system are we going to use? Should we be looking into purchasing a system? Should that be the most expensive cost associated with the digital academy?
We've looked. We are. Mrs. Reisland's looking at some systems. The issue with the systems, considering our especially considering our survey results, is that the parents seem to be looking for a much more personalized, not personalized, but a much more face-to-face endeavor with the teachers. A lot of the systems are relatively standalone, and they don't offer as much personalization as we can do just through Google Classroom and Zoom, and leveraging the expertise of our teachers.
Okay.
And I think that it would be important to have our teachers, be in touch with these, not in touch, instructing these folks on a daily basis. And that's what those two platforms do. They're not, when I say a canned program in curricular speak, what I mean is we do some programming through for credit recovery through canned programs that are self-paced. This would not be that. This would not be. It's not. None of what we've looked at yet, as of yet. And I don't know if we're going to find something that's robust enough to really reach our kids where they are. I think that our teachers are able to do that much more effectively. So.
Any other questions for Mr. Hankey, Mr. Sluka, or Mr. Patton?
Yeah, I do. I just want to get some clarification just about where we at. So what went out is actually registration. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And are we moving forward with any other aspects of this prior to the 13th?
No. I think that what we wanted to look at was who wanted an online option, and after the 13th, we will have the plan in place to move forward with kind of the nuts and bolts to drill down into exactly what that's going to look like. And I think we are going to have a situation that's going to allow our students to have a very robust program to access. One of the pieces to get all of the details in place is to make sure that, you know, we have everything fleshed out and ready to go.
And once after the 13th, you guys will present the plan, and then will the board be voting on it, our 26th meeting, if it's
the 20th, right? Is it
the 20th? I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I got all kind of dates in my mind.
Yes.
And you said it's a parent, you're meeting with the parent group when?
Wednesday, we had, I sent out to the board asking for folks to join that group. And I did get one back. And then I also asked the principals. We're meeting via Zoom. However, one parent's coming in because of access issues, just to try to, you know, get some feedback and glean some information about our planning moving forward.
When did that email go out? I didn't see that.
No.
And I didn't see the frequently asked questions neither. I'm sorry.
That I sent that out on Friday, the FAQ, and I can resend that to you. And
was it with your report?
Yes.
I just overlooked it. Okay, I'll look again. You don't have to.
Yeah, and if anybody has any additions, I wanted to do a small parent group so we could have a pretty robust discussion. But I am, if anybody watching as well, I'm certainly ready and available to take questions, emails, or individual meetings with parents to talk to them.
I have another very important question. Are we having our diversity and equity consultant kind of review everything through the equity lens or us prior to rolling things out? Because we've made a commitment, especially when it comes to, the board just released a statement about making a commitment to that. So I want to make sure that we honor that commitment by assuring that we're filtering it through that lens, especially for my special ed students too. I'm very concerned about the inclusive part of the digital academy.
The short answer is yes. Let me reshare my screen.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
You see right here, that's actually part of the state plan. And I have actually just had a conversation with Ms. Hamilton about separating out some of the equity work even before during this whole thing, because part of the issue is that we need to look at that relatively robustly. So she and I are communicating with how to tackle that. Yes, the short answer is yes. Long answer is yeah. Well, we're gonna work on that.
And as far as the unions, both unions are okay with this online academy, correct? I mean, everyone's
we're gonna meet again with the teachers union as we go forward with this planning piece because it
prior
could be
to our meeting, correct?
Yeah,
I mean, prior to us, okay.
Right.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's an MOU we need to review and approve that's been signed, correct? Because you
Well,
said that
the MOU was for the calendar. That was signed, and the superintendent's able to sign those on behalf of the board for the calendar. But that was just to move forward with the calendar.
Oh, for just the calendar. Okay, I thought.
So they're fully on board with just the calendar MOU was signed off on.
So there's no MOU at this point, correct? From the union?
What's that?
Is there an MOU from the unions for this?
No, not for
That's
this.
what I thought I heard.
No,
I'm sorry.
no. No, just for the calendar. They've signed off on the calendar change. So the board is able to move forward with that. But no, they'd have to sign off on, we have to talk to them about this, about this. And they're aware of that. We met with them last week. They are aware that we're going to talk again.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Within the registration interests that we have, are any of them kindergartners?
Mrs. Bailey actually might be able to answer that. I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't have the data in front of me. Sherry, I think maybe looking at that screen. Go ahead, Sherry. Hold
I
on.
can look that up. Just give me about 60 seconds. I'll pull it right up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I did get a report that that of the registrations, they're broad in terms of grade level.
You know, as far as that, we are reaching out on social media to advertise this program, but I'm not sure how many students we have that don't have access to Chromebooks and internet access. I'm assuming at this point, all the Chromebooks have been returned to the district that they used for the previous year.
No, they're not all returned.
They're not
yet.
all returned.
We have Chromebooks out still for summer school.
Okay.
The
Okay.
last day of summer school is Thursday, and we have a collection on Thursday afternoon.
Okay. So how else are we advertising this digital academy? So say we have students that have turned in their Chromebooks already, they're not in summer school. How do they know that that we have this option available where the students can be from home Chromebook and have the internet access given to them?
We haven't gone through a very robust advertising campaign as of yet, Mrs. Kitson. I think based on the questions I'm hearing tonight, I would argue that we stay status quo until final board approval. And then we move on from there in terms of advertising this. That's my recommendation.
Can we have more details on the Chromebook collection that's on Thursday? Because I want to be able to share it on social media.
You mean the times that we're collecting them?
And we're at?
12:30 to 2 at the middle school.
Are there a lot of Chromebooks still missing that need to be?
There still are
returned?
quite a few Chromebooks, but we did tell students that we're going to be in summer school to keep them.
Mhm.
So, hang on one second. I'll just.
Could you provide us, Mr. Henke, with a report after summer school's run?
With the Chromebooks?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
to make sure they're all returned. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July and be safe. And we'll
Thank
see
you.
we'll see you on the 13th, which will be an executive session, because I believe we're going to discuss negotiations then. Is that true? Mr.
Yes,
Henke?
yes, and Mr. Juby, I would suggest also a public session for the remote learning plan piece.
Sure.
Okay.
And will we also discuss the presenters that we had last week and moving forward with strategic planning and all that on 13th?
Yeah, make it a full work session.
Yeah.
And step out for executive.
Just while we're doing this, I would like to recommend that we do this strategic plan and board retreat after school starts, because I believe Mr. Henke, Mr. Patton, Mr. Sluka, Sherry, and Leanne have a lot on their plate getting this academy ready. And I don't think another month and a half is going to hurt our strategic plan or our board retreat.
I'm throwing this idea out as far as a board retreat. And I'm not sure how this works with Ms. Wright Keys, but is this something where we could have possibly 2 retreats? One with just the board. I mean, this is supposed to be our board goals, etc., and our communication amongst each other. And then after school starts, possibly including an administrative team. I'm just throwing that out. I don't know.
I think when she gave out her plan, Chris, it was to meet with the board and then the administration, if I remember correctly. She was gonna meet with each board member and the superintendent.
So
But I still would like to do this after school starts, even everything, just with all the stuff going on. So, if that's okay.
it's up
if
to the
not-
board. Either way is fine with me.
Okay,
I don't know if I feel like I don't know if I feel a strong need to have our board retreat after school starts.
you want it before?
Yeah, I don't think we should keep pushing it back.
Well, we weren't planning on a board retreat because we already had one in February.
Well,
We're
we have a
doing-
new board
Second
member.
one
I
After
understand.
my,
I-
yeah, we were.
I'll leave it up, but let's going to a new board member class pretty soon, correct?
I will be attending virtually now on
Okay.
July 11th. And we had talked when I first started that we were going to do a board retreat soon after my training so that I would have the foundation and we would come together as a board. And
Yours is July what?
11th. July 11th. It's just.
Okay, so if we did it, we can do whatever everybody wants. I'm just thinking, we're gonna be pretty busy the next 2 months, so you guys decide and let me know, and I'll get a hold of Miss Keys and we'll go from there. Wait, we gotta decide if we want Miss Keys first.
Well, yeah, I think we'll be
Check her
meeting
schedule.
again next week, so it'll give us enough time to think about thank you for your recommendation and give us time to consider it and then have further discussion.
And then if we
on it.
decide on her, then I'll contact her and check out her schedule.
Yeah, because
See
we
if-
also need to check her availability too, but
Okay,
I do appreciate your recommendation. And then that just gives us actually a little bit of time to consider your recommendations and the points that you.
no problem. And if the
Yeah,
board,
thank you, Mr. Juby.
Would there
Well,
be a
Susan-
problem with putting her name on an agenda? I mean, we aren't voting now. We're having time to discuss, but we could put her firm on an agenda to consider and
Mhm.
vote on at a future date.
Al, correct me, if we could discuss that in executive session on the 13th.
Is it executive
No,
session?
not this thing, not the
Okay,
topic of a board retreat.
Okay, we could discuss it on the 13th and put it on the agenda for the 20th.
We can.
Okay.
Thank you.
If that's okay with everybody, then maybe I'll reach out to Miss Keys and just check her schedule and see what
Perfect.
availability. So,
Perfect.
all right. Anything else?
Yes, just to answer Ashley's question, at this time, there's only one kindergartner that's registered.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn,
So
So
moved.
discussion, roll call.
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Kitson,
Yes.
Mrs. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Juby.
Yes. And once again, thank you all for doing this. And then the other thing I wanted to not recommend, we were discussing the July 20th meeting in person. So let me know your thoughts so Al can set everything up for the 20th.
Oh, no.
13th will still be virtual.
Actually,
Okay.
I'll say right now with the COVID outbreak,
Okay.
my thought would be virtual at this point, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I would say we'll see how the.
It didn't
traffic-
it
No
made a
problem.
big
I was
old
just bringing it up
turnaround.
because some board members discussed it at the last meeting. So,
Thank you.
okay, no problem
Okay.
either way. All right, everybody have
All
a
right.
good 4th and be safe.
Everybody have a good 4th.
Thank you,
Oh,
everyone.
yeah.
Take care.
Everybody.
Mr.
Yeah.
Hankey, you're on vacation.